Welcome to another video, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the best decks after the latest patch came through in Hearthstone. And spoiler alert, Hearthstone is real. In this video I'm going to show you 5 of the best decks to reach Easy Legend in Hearthstone right now, talk about their mulligans, win rates and general tips, so you guys can be hitting Easy Legend on your own and you know what you should be playing with as well as what you're probably playing against. If you find the video helpful, a like and a subscribe would be great, and don't forget you can check me out live on stream each Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, where I do my best to give you the best Hearthstone decks right now. But now, let's get into the video.
You are not prepared!
Guys, quick shout out to today's video sponsor, Star Trek Warp. Because this looks way more interesting than I expected. Honestly, this is one of the most exciting card game announcements I've heard in a while, and you can be amongst the first to play it by using my link in the description and adding it to your wishlist in Steam. Star Trek Warp is a collectible card game built around ship-based deck building and a 7-lane battlefield, which already makes it feel completely different from most card battlers out there. Instead of just dropping units and hoping your combo works, your ship is basically your entire identity in the match. And every starship has its own stats, abilities, and playstyle. The 7-lane battle system adds a real positioning and spatial strategy layer. You're deciding where to deploy your crew, when to trigger abilities, how to manage energy, and even when to cycle cards for momentum. What also surprised me is how much content they already have planned, and there's gonna be hundreds of cards, PvP, PvE content, and modes with restrictions, ships to unlock, packs to open, and a bunch of iconic Star Trek characters like Spock, Kirk, and Picard. But honestly, even if you're not a huge Star Trek fan, this still looks like a genuinely solid strategy card game first. The game is available now to wishlist on Steam, and early access will be coming first, with exclusive First Contact pack rewards before the full launch. So if you want to check it out early and support the channel for free, use my link in the description and wishlist Star Trek Warp now. And yeah, the first decks on the list are gonna be free Pally decks, guys. Like, I'm not even joking right now. Free Pally decks are taking the first spot as the best deck for Easy Legend, and we can either choose from the standard Bubble Aura Paladin, with both Convalescence and Acceleration Aura, and heck, even the Twilight Egg that just got nerfed. You could also choose for a faster version of End Turnedin with more aggressive stuff, but none of the aggro nonsense. So yeah, this is a deck I've actually seen on ladder against me, and it definitely felt strong, and it's a little bit quicker than what we know it to be, but still has room for a couple of end turn effects like the Spearheart Sentry, like Nasdormu, as well as Scale Breaker, and we also have the weapon. And not only that, we even have the aura. And the third Pally deck that we could be including on the #1 spot would be a straight out fast Silverhand Recruit Pally, which is doing just as good as the other two. This one has things like Hatching Ceremony in it, a good amount of the Silverhand Recruit Pally stuff with the Brash Battle Master, with Arator Redeemer, Teamwork is in here, couple of Emboldening Blades, which honestly I feel is a mistake, but we're not running the free mana Divine Shield girl that gives extra HP to your Silverhand recruits because it's just not that good. I think out of these three, the most interesting one would be this one because it's somewhat new. I haven't really seen an iteration of this deck before, and after the latest patch we are seeing a little bit more of it, apparently for the first time actually. So yeah, let's go quickly over this deck. It is basically a fast aggro deck like aggro Pally from before, but it does have room for the end turn effects, which are definitely interesting, and with things like this you are gonna have a better time against things like Face Hunter, because this could give you a good amount of healing. It's pretty interesting seeing this Irvin Drake in here. Like, I'm not really sure why this is so good. I guess it's because it's an end turn effect, so with the aura you could be abusing this to deal 8 damage, and with the weapon you could do even more, so it is kind of interesting. You could kind of OTK people and basically kill them behind a taunt, so it is kind of genius including it. We also have the Bulwarks in here, which is a card you haven't seen before in aggressive Pallies like this, but the rest of it is really standard stuff aside from the Battle Vicar, which is an interesting inclusion. Again, it could give you a good amount of healing or removal depending on what you need, and depending on what you get offered, that is. But yeah, it's kind of cool of an inclusion, and the rest of it is just basically aggressive Pally stuff. Matchup wise, here's what we have here, and Spell Demon Hunter used to be a bad matchup for this one, but you're not gonna see too many of it after the nerf. Egg Warrior might be a problem, but you don't see too many of those either, because this deck was actually notorious against Spell Demon Hunters, and with those out of the way, you shouldn't be seeing as much egg either. But as you see, you have some pretty good matchups against most of the other spreads on ladder. Face Hunter was slightly on the negative, but that's also going to be slightly less dominant now. When it comes down to the mulligan, you are going to be looking for your good fast stuff. The Violet Treasure Guild would be your most OP card to hold on to. Twilight Egg, even after the nerf, is still strong. Flight Maneuver is still pretty good to hold on to, especially when going first with a couple of cheap cards in between it. Sizzling Cinder is a great one-drop, same with Righteous Protector, Past Nomergan can be okay, Battle Vicar makes some sense, Convalescence, especially if you already don't have the Violet Treasure Gill, and if you're curving into something like Nasdormo against some matchups, that could be crazy good. Going second, it's much of the same stuff, so mulligan accordingly. Like I said, the other Pally decks are doing just as strong, like here's the Bubble Pally with the Aura included, super solid. Here's the one I'm showing you, 61% 0.2 win rate, 1200 games, definitely very solid, and also the Silver Hand Recruit Pally, very solid as well, but we can also see several different iterations of Pally lower than that, like this one has a very solid sample size, not so good a win rate though, so yeah, Pally right now is definitely eating good today. On the number 2 spot, we also have Herald Shaman, which is not receiving any nerfs on this patch, and a lot of the other popular matchups did get nerfed, so yeah, no wonder Herald Shaman is gonna be increasing in stocks. This deck has been strong before, and after a bunch of its opponents got nerfed, why would it not be increasing in power? Nothing really too crazy when it comes down to the card choices in this one. You do actually have a couple of Envoys of the End, which is not always a part of the best Shaman decks. We also have a single copy of Wailing Vapor, and X still makes the cut despite the nerf. Single copy of Hex, couple of Lightning Storms, that kind of stuff. The rest is really standard stuff nowadays. You don't really get to deviate too much out of the standard 24 cards, let's say. The 6 cards you could be playing around with, that's for sure. Again, check out my detailed guide about Herald Shaman from not too long ago if you want to see how to play it. But now let's see the updated matchups. And here they are. Spell Demon Hunter used to be a not so great matchup for you. Same with Face Hunter. And with those two getting lower in popularity, God knows you're going to be having much better time with this deck. Unholy Death Knight is actually doing quite well against you. Bubble Pally also not that bad for the most part, but it's pretty close to 50-50. Same with Burn Mage. And lower than that, Dragon Warrior might be a little bit of a problem, but not by much. When you're going first with Herald Shaman, you are going to be looking for your good cheap Herald cards, the Twilight Egg, the Wailing Vapor, Witch's Apprentice could be great, Primordial Overseer, especially if you have Static Shock, like these cards go hand in hand together. Flight of the Firehawk can be pretty awesome if you're curving into it, and depending on the matchup, you could consider Lightning Storm or Hex. Curving into Xavius or Elise, also not the worst. Going second, again, kind of the same deal, so there's that. For other good Shaman decks, this is the one I'm showing you, 700 games with 60+ win rate. We also have a much more populated list with not that worse win rate, and it just has one less Lightning Storm for one more Wailing Vapor, so not that big a change. And yeah, that's really about it for Shaman right now, nothing but Herald action. Spot number 3 still goes to Dragon Warrior, which is rising back in power. It did receive a few small nerfs not too long ago, but nowadays it's definitely rising back to power because a lot of its opponents got nerfed again. And yeah, nothing really too crazy about this list. It's still super cheap, literally running nothing but commons and rares. The legendary in here everybody has for free, so that's amazing. So this is still, in my opinion, the best easy deck for legend that literally is not gonna cost you anything because it's just so damn cheap. I did do a guide about this deck not too long ago, so really no point in me wasting time talking about it. Give it a check if you want to see it in action, as well as hear more about detailed tips and what to do with it. Matchup wise, here's what we have right now. Things like Aggro Druid and Mirror for Druid are not that great for you. Aggro Druid you shouldn't be seeing too many of now. Unholy Death Knight is also not that great. And scrolling down further, you can see everything else is pretty positive, so again, pretty good deck for easy legend. When you're going first, the best card you could be dropping on turn 1 would be the Dark Rider because it can give you an absolutely insane follow-up turn. Carrier Whelp is also amazing. The Brute Keeper, especially if you already have a 1-drop. Curving into Prescient Slither Drake is also pretty amazing. Darkscale Broodmother could be pretty good too. Shadowed Informant, if you already have a 1-drop, sure. And the rest probably not so great going first. On the coin, however, you could be choosing some other cards like Shadow Flame Suffusion, like the Location, Eternal Toil, heck, even Searing Fissures, especially against something like a Rogue. The Location also makes some sense against Rogues. We really don't have that much else for Warrior going on for the last couple of days. Egg Warrior is still playable, that's for sure, and Herald Warrior is also okay, but as you see, Dragon Warrior has crazy good stats with crazy good sample size. Spot number 4 actually goes to Mage, but no, it's not gonna be Leyline Mage, guys, chill. It's just Burn Mage in here, and this deck is pretty powerful. It's like Face Hunter, but for mages, and it does have a lot of burn damage, it does have a good amount of early game pressure, and it does run the new Tunneling Geomancer, which is pretty cool, which is a pretty cool new prep card, which, if you spend 2 mana on turn 2, you could literally be dropping down for 0 and amping up all of your spells with +1 spell damage, and that is actually +2 spell damage for half your spells, because you have have quite a few that actually take double spell damage. Things like Arcane Flow are gonna amp up twice that way. Things like Scorching Winds, Sleet Storm, Arcane Barrage, that kind of stuff is gonna be taking a lot more extra damage thanks to the +1 spell damage, so it's pretty cool. Other than that, the deck is pretty standard again, but we're not running chunky cards like the Colossal, for instance, so it's a much faster deck, and I definitely could give it a try today on stream, so drop by and check it out if you want to see it in action. Matchup-wise, here's what we have. Spell Demon Hunter was not a great deck for you, same with Face Hunter, so no wonder right now why this deck is rising so much in power. Aggro Druid also got nerfed well, so you're gonna have a much better time not facing them. Things like Merifra Druid and Herald Death Knight, however, not that great, but you're not gonna face too many Herald Death Knights, let's not pretend. Other than that, the Warrior decks are not gonna be great for you either, and Priest could be a 50-50, but the rest looks pretty solid. When first you're gonna try and put out your good early game minions on the board, curving it to Archmage Calic could be absolutely insane, and holding on to Arcane Flow, especially if you already have cheap stuff in the middle, could be huge. Against lower matchups, holding on to Smoldering Grove might make some sense, you can get yourself a good amount of gas, but be careful. I personally would not be keeping this card if I don't already have a good 1-drop. On the coin, it's much of the same deal. Here Calic becomes even better, however, but for the most part you're trying to keep yourself your good cheap minions so you can curve out nicely on the board, and after that start burning their face. As for the other good mages, this is the one I'm showing you, 57% win rate, above 1000 games, and we have several different iterations of it, which are doing just as good, and Leyline Mage is finally playable, guys. Here it is. This looks pretty much the same deck I showed you right after a patch came through, but in mine I don't think we had Frostbolt if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Leyline Mage seems to be above 50% now, even though not by much. Other than that, Quest Mage is also super solid in skilled hands, but it's definitely not an easy deck to master. You really gotta be very good at controlling the randomness. If you're not gonna have a super happy fun time with it. And the last deck on the list, believe it or not, is going to be Unholy Death Knight, and this deck is having quite the solid sample size and win rate for the last couple of days, again because a lot of its bad matchups actually got nerfed. And also, a lot of its good matchups are actually popular right now because of the bad matchups got nerfed, so it's actually a pretty perfect storm for Unholy Death Knight right now. Nothing too crazy about this list, it looks pretty standard from lists I've showed you in the past, when the meta was more favorable for decks like this, and we do still have things like Chowdown in here, which personally I definitely did like. But lately it hasn't been as popular for these lists. The Shadow of Yesterday is definitely awesome, giving you a lot of extra refill, and with the Laundry Glass Stand you could be making your small board into a not so small board quite easily. With things like Grave Strength you could be finishing off opponents very quickly and take them out by surprise, and you do have so many ways of actually filling out the board turn after turn, it's really not gonna be fun for most opponents. When it comes down to matchups, Herald and Spell Demon Hunter were not great for you, but you're not gonna be facing too many of those. However, Bubble Pally is still gonna be pretty dominant against you. Egg Warrior, if you manage to find one, also not that great. And when it comes down to going first, you are gonna try and curve out with your good minions. You are a board-centric deck after all, so curving out with a good early game board would be pretty good. On the coin, however, not much is changing. Again, try to get the good 1-2-3s and you should be climbing with ease. This is the one I'm showing you, not that insane of sample size or win rate, but definitely quite good right now, especially compared to the other decks out there. It's actually looking decently solid. However, Herald Death Knight still pretty dog water. For the classes we haven't mentioned, imagine starting off with Demon Hunter. Spell Demon Hunter is still out there, but just barely. We just don't have enough sample size just yet, but I'm sure it's still gonna remain somewhere around these stats, so it's still gonna be a decent deck. It's just that people haven't played much of it just yet. Same can be said with Druids. Aggro Druid, I do believe, is still gonna remain decently playable, even though so far the stats really show a brutal reality, guys. I'm not sure this is gonna remain this low, but for now, things are not looking super cash money for the deck. Merifra Druid, however, still looks quite good, even though we don't have that much sample size on either of the lists. With Hunter, Face Hunter, I do believe is going to remain quite relevant, probably close to the stats we saw on Unholy Death Knight, so definitely don't write it off just yet. Yes, it's just a wee bit slower, and yes, that might cost them a few games here and there, but for the most part, they should be winning more than they're losing. Same could be said for Companion Hunter. I don't believe it's gonna go much lower than this win rate, and even this win rate feels a little bit lower for what the deck can actually do if you actually know what you're doing with it. For priests, not much has changed. Quest priest is still gonna be your go-to deck. It's not that amazing according to the stats, but give it a try and you might actually do quite better than these stats suggest. Rogue is definitely still pretty top tier if you ask me, especially in top legend you can see the pros doing absolutely amazing things with a deck like this, but it does really have quite the high skill cap, so you really need to know what you could be doing with your deck as well as with all the randomness you will be finding. And lastly we have Warlock, where Egg Warlock actually looks surprisingly decent, but these are just early stats if you ask me. I'm pretty sure it's gonna go down to close to 50% not too long from now. So that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this top 5 meta report, and if you did, a like and subscribe would be great, and don't forget to check me out live on stream each Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, where I do my best to show you the new best decks in action. And don't forget to add Star Trek Warp into your wishlist on Steam. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.